right, guys. So we're here today with Charlie Herlocker. And Charlie, if you guys are not aware, he's the guy that actually bought MetaZoo in this bankruptcy process. So I'm going to let Charlie kind of talk to you guys a little bit with an intro of who he is.
I went to college for I got my 4-year degree. The whole time dealing in trading cards, and then I ended up taking a full-time job in the industry as a director of operations for a grading middleman company. And I was like, I finished the degree, but it's so funny that it's like, I think most people, they go to college to learn like what they're going to do. And I was already doing it. And it just never stopped doing it. And so, from there, I really kind of carved out like a know-how in Pokemon cards and a know-how in grading. That led to an opportunity with CGC. So I got to be part of their founding team to build CGC grading for trading cards. I know it's not as big as PSA, but my first company was for PSA. So I have a lot of relationships there too. A lot of really close relationships. I love both companies. I worked there for a while and then ended up in the publishing side of the industry. And so that's where I am now is I work for GameCubator Labs as a director of business development. And I've been there for a little over a year. I had flagged before they shut down that MetaZoo was a company that should be looked at. And I was like, I really think that this is somewhere where you could implement a lot of operational improvements and you could probably get a lot more mileage. But I was like, I think that this is a company that I think this community really likes these things. Is kind of the heart of it, right?
Well, someone in the chat just called you MetaZoo's Lord and Savior, so I think you're getting pretty warm reception here.
Well, yeah, I mean, whether or not MetaZoo's been saved is yet to be determined. Really, that's the thing I would say is if it's gonna have a savior, it's gonna be you. It's gonna be the community, right? I mean, really, all of the value comes from the degree to which this thing. Not just serves the community and also grows the community. I got a head start on my trading card business. I mean, I started it in middle school, and we hit like 1 million ARR pretty quick. And so
do you want to talk a little bit about the GameCubator connection? Yeah,
sure, because it is confusing. The thing I say to a lot of people is, I don't know if you've ever heard the song. There's this song that's like, I'm my own grandfather, and in a way, it's like that, right? Because I work for GQL, and I'm also GQL's boss when it comes to MetaZoo, because I'm the president of MetaZoo, and so the relationship there is that it works because we have an incredibly deep partnership with them, which is to say that MetaZoo has an exclusive license that it has granted to GQL, and so in that sense, I'm here to hold that accountable, but ultimately GQL is the means by which this will be executed.
So you want to talk a little bit about your vision for MetaZoo in collaboration with GQL?
Yeah, sure. That's a big question. I think, it's really simple in a way, which is to say that, the vision is to create a really great trading card game. We're going to do MetaZoo, but better. It's not just that, right? Like, I think we have aspirations that are significantly larger than that, which is to make MetaZoo, a global cryptid based IP, that uses its regional familiarity to drive engagement and to bring trading cards to people through that. And I want this to be a global means by which people do trading cards and a global means by which people do cryptids, and so bringing that together into just a really awesome, satisfying, enjoyable, industry competitive, delivered on time product.
Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about the team there? Because I know there's a lot of chatter about some of those names that were involved and a lot of excitement.
But we can talk about Rick.
Yeah.
Rick's my boss. So here's why I think Rick Ahrens is really important. Really, Rick was a really big part of the heart that pulled Pokemon through its lull in the early 2000s. And, he was at Wizards before, and all of this is public also. I mean, he put out his own letter. And so, he was instrumental in recognizing the value of that IP and committing to the trading card game and making it great and making it what people want and pulling that forward to where it's at today.
So was he familiar with MetaZoo prior to the bankruptcy? Was it something he knew about or was on his radar before?
Yeah. I mean, all of us knew about MetaZoo. The way I like to describe MetaZoo is the most successful indie TCG of all time. I mean, I don't think that that's incorrect at all.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really how I feel about it. And one of the things that I think is really interesting is like the number of ways that people try to explain away the success. When in reality, the success is straightforward and simple. It was resonating. It was a resonant IP. They had a concept that a critical mass of people felt was sufficiently compelling to engage the product. And then they, from there you start to form communities. One thing I'll say is it's a completely original team. GQL pre-existed the bankruptcy and we are using our team originally to do it. So,
well, I think a lot of people had questions about previous ownership, if Mike Waddell will have any involvement going forward in the new version of MetaZoo. I'd let you talk about that.
Yeah. So, again, GQL pre-exists the bankruptcy, and we're using our original team. So we don't have anybody from MetaZoo that is involved in any of the development aspects. I know we'll talk about art probably later, but no, it's not. He's not involved in this, and this is.
So there you go, guys. He's not involved.
It's a fresh team. It's a completely fresh team. One thing I want to be clear too is that like my goal is in no way to kind of disparage what happened, because I actually think that MetaZoo was awesome, right? I just think that there are things that we're going to bring to it that are going to help it in the long run, that are going to help it to be something that can withstand, growth, that can be around for a long time, sustainable and durable. I say them to my team every single day.
They're loving you in the chat, man. You're getting a lot of love.
Oh, I can't. Yeah, I don't know how to see it, but hi.
It's all positivity, man. They really like you. So let's get into this new set that's coming out, this new product that's coming out at the beginning of Q1.
For me, there's like a question really before that as well, which is like, what is MetaZoo, right? And I think that I personally believe that MetaZoo struggled with that question in a lot of ways. So what is a cryptid, right? Does a legend count, right? Where are those lines? And I think that the brand pushed and said, okay, we can have. It doesn't have to be strictly a cryptid. It's not just ghost stories, but these creatures that come with this deep historic lore and that represent sort of it's not always like pseudo horror, but there's definitely a place of honor for those types of things, whereas I think other IPs would spit them out. And so, I recognize that. And then, but also you end up with like, certainly like Griddle Greaser Pete is not scaring a whole lot of people, right? And so
will not be sliding around bacon today.
But the tying factor is sort of the story. In many ways, the first iterations of the characters, when we look back 10 years from now, will feel like prototypes, right? They'll feel like sort of this first stab. And where we'll land is something that just feels so familiar and has such a strong identity. And so I think set one is about doing the first of that work. I want it to feel like MetaZoo. We're not trying to come out with a product and just call it MetaZoo, right? I mean, that's not our intentions at all. The goal of the first set is to just make an awesome game that's again sustainable and durable. I don't want to talk too much about the game because I think that we have really cool plans like in the future for kind of releasing like pieces of that. And the goal of the base set is to definitely not lose that core identity. But we want to do that better. We want to do more of that, and we want to do more in general, right? We want to do more, and so they're like. I'll be the first to tell you. I think we'll try some new things, and then we're gonna watch and we're gonna see. Do you like them, right? And if you like them, we'll do more of it. And if you don't like them, we'll try something else. I think it's gonna feel like I hope the best MetaZoo set that's ever dropped. I mean, that's really my goal. I'm ambitious, like I think we really want to knock this out of the park. And I know I've never worked this hard. I think most of our team is working about as hard as they've ever worked. I mean, 7 days a week, 14-hour days is a lot. It's our families are thoroughly aware of what we're working on. I'll throw that out there.
Can you comment at all on any potentially returning artists from the old MetaZoo?
So I think there are really cool ways to reveal the artists. And so I'm going to wait for those. But yes, you will see a lot of familiar faces. We have already signed on. Most of who I believe are like the most culturally significant artists from the original MetaZoo.
Well, I really like this idea that you're kind of putting out there that we are bringing back some of the old artists, but they're not going to be restricted to just that one style of artwork, and they'll be able to express more creative ways of interpreting some of these cryptids. I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, we're giving them a long leash, really.
So is there a possibility in this base set we could see multiple, like, different styles of artwork for one cryptid in the same set?
It's absolutely a possibility.
So you want to touch on maybe distribution, print run stuff as far as this base set goes?
Well, with print run, I mean, the main thing I'll offer you is we will not overprint it.
Well, the biggest question about distribution was, will it be available worldwide and where will it be sold?
We will have a global presence, like just straight up. There's going to be multiple countries that are going to have it.
I think people were wondering if you're going to be reviving the MetaZoo marketplace.
Are we
Shopify website?
We are not intending to do direct-to-consumer sales.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of problems that come with the direct-to-consumer sales. I think we have a really robust ecosystem that's kind of already been built out that serves the LGS really well. And I think that snubbing the LGS was a mistake. Like, I mean, you really want that customer acquisition funnel. You really these are good institutions. At GQL, this is why we're bringing in these partners, right? This is why we're using global distribution partners like World Caliber. This is why we're using a printing partner that's World Caliber, right? Is that we know what we do well and we will partner for those other things. We're not trying to do 100 things poorly. We're trying to do one thing well, which is to make an awesome trading card game. That is what we were trying to do.
I think one last piece on the product that's coming out, this base set. Can you speak on, will it be like a full set, like a booster box? Will it be
Yeah, it's going to be a full set. I mean, it's not. I told you we're bringing back MetaZoo. I'm not going to bring you a 12-card promo set and pretend that that's what you want. I know what you want. You know what I mean? Like, have a little faith in me. I know what you guys want. I mean, we're going to try to bring that. I mean, we're going to try to bring a full set with all the trappings. We're not looking at the bar of well, this is what MetaZoo did. So as long as we're 1 inch above that bar, we're good. That is not how we're thinking about it. We're looking at the industry. And we're saying MetaZoo deserves to be a player in that industry. And we believe that it can be if we do these things correctly. But what I would tell you is that our entire production stack that we are developing right now is geared towards producing standard releases in line with industry standards.
I think you brought up a really good point earlier about the trust thing. I think that's going to be a really big thing for you guys to overcome. Do you have anything you can say or speak on as far as specific steps to earn back some of that trust? Do you have kind of a game plan for that?
Yeah, I mean, people should only trust us when we deliver a good product. I mean, that's the reality, right? I don't want to ask for trust on false premises. I mean, it is our responsibility to deliver this product and to curate something that is wholly good. And so we bear that responsibility, and I think we accept that responsibility. So, in terms of trust, I mean, I think that our release plan is our trust plan.
As far as the gradability thing, will these new cards going forward be gradable CGC, BGS, PSA? You mentioned your relationship with BGS or GGC earlier.
Yeah, it won't be a problem. We'll talk to our friends at both of those companies, and I'm extremely optimistic that, I mean, they will have no reason not to, is really the answer.
You talked a little bit about continuity earlier. How much continuity will there be between the old IP and the new IP as far as the storyline goes? Just touch on that a little bit.
So look, we've really dug in and we've said kind of what is MetaZoo, right? And so I think that the story especially left a lot of questions to be answered. And importantly, I think that because the story was not sufficiently developed, I understand that a lot of effort was done by the community to try to develop that. I've talked to a couple of really awesome people that you would recognize. I haven't asked them for permission to mention them, so I won't mention them yet. But
they just mentioned one in the chat. Termentic was just mentioned. I think that's
okay.
one of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I haven't asked, so I don't want to like drop names. So the first MetaZoo card I ever got was at a Collecticon, where it was like, hey, if you don't have any cards, you can have any cards you want signed by these people, right? And these are the artists of the game in the flesh, right here. If you don't have a card signed, here's a promo. Go get it signed, you know? And so I went through the line and I got it signed. And at the time, I didn't purchase anything. I wasn't ready yet, but I took that home and I thought it was really cool. And I come from Pokemon, where it's like, it almost seems like, you know, sometimes Pokemon wants to send you to jail for collecting signatures. And so it's like, you know, this like very, very hostile environment where the company's like, please don't do this thing, you know? And then I go to MetaZoo and MetaZoo's like, do it. We'll facilitate it, you know, come and partake, you know? I thought that was just really cool. I thought, and
what was that first card? Do you remember?
No, sorry.
I
wish I did. I should, right? That's embarrassing. Here are two opportunities that I think we could do better. Better than anyone if we're smart and we're careful and the community likes us and buys our products, right? One is storytelling. Like, I don't think storytelling is really meaningfully being done to sell trading cards. Magic has almost no IP. You don't have to engage the IP of Pokemon at all to engage with the trading cards. And it doesn't really seem like they're using storytelling. Like, what's the story of Surging Sparks? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, it's not, that is not how they're doing their sets, right? You have games like One Piece where it's like, it's based on a pre-existing story, but the story is not being done in service of the trading card game, right? And so it's like, I think that's really cool. I think that's an opening. I think it'll take a really long time to develop, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that set one I'm dropping with 113 expanded universe novels and it's time to go, boys. Every single card comes from this, you know? It's not like that. I mean, look, we're realistic. How can we, because when I say MetaZoo, I literally mean we, like people in the chat, Nick Miller, Charlie Erlacher, all these people, like, is MetaZoo at this point, right? I mean, we're on this boat together. And so it's like, how do we make it float? How do we get to where we want to be? I think the MetaZoo community is the most resilient community in all of TCG. I mean, I think they were like, you know, the companies disappears and you still can't pull these people apart. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's awesome, right? And then every time I like meet MetaZoo fans, like legitimate MetaZoo fans, they're really cool. They're completely engaged. They know exactly. They're not oblivious. They know exactly what everybody thinks. They know exactly like how these things go. And they're just choosing to do it anyway. And so it's like, okay, who's prepared to bring that game back, right? Who's really prepared? It's that community. That community is prepared. And so that's, in my mind, that's really like all of our investment is investment in the belief that that community, you know, actually loves this thing. And if we do it the right way, that they will continue to love to do this thing.
I think resilient is a fantastic word. I think that's perfect.
Yeah. You will not open Netflix tomorrow and find MetaZoo, the animated series. That's not going to happen. But one day, I mean, that'd be cool, right?
So I think something that people really loved about the original MetaZoo was all the collaborations, all the partnerships.
Well, they didn't love all the collaborations.
That's true.
Here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to be releasing all that stuff instead of sets. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like the core experience, the core expectation, you know, delivering that is a big hurdle. And we need to make sure we can do that. We need to grow into that. We need to demonstrate for you that we can do that. Like, we will never do something because it just like, well, that's what people do. It feels that way. You know what I mean? We're not doing it that way. Like, everything we do will be with intention, very specific strategic intention, and a belief that there's a consumer on the other side that we want as a part of our community, or that is our community already. You know, we do not need your order in order to pay the printer. You know what I mean? We're not borrowing from you, paying this guy, and then kind of hoping it works out. Like, we are prepared to fund through the entire development, prepared to fund the entire marketing plan. We're prepared to deliver the product to the distributors.
I was kind of curious. Did you have a favorite cryptid or a favorite MetaZoo card?
I got to look up the name of it because it's not named after the cryptid. So one of my favorite is Bask in the Sunlight. It's a card. It's an illustration by Afton that has it's Bigfoot, and then it has like a baby Bigfoot on the chest of Bigfoot.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Honestly, I just think that like it's really wholesome, and like especially because like in the old product, the way that they kind of depict it is like as this like fighting character, and so like the show, I really like the idea of being able to show the duality of a character. My favorite character is probably the Little Green Men, and with the Little Green Men too. Like my favorite thing is like the idea that sort of like they share a task, and they like and then like taking it one step further, which this may just be entirely in my imagination, but like they share sort of like an emotion, you know. And so it's like, you know, I love the idea that you would have like all of these like, you know, dopey little green mushroom headed characters just like chilling. And I also love the idea that you have these dopey little green mushroom headed characters that are like ready for war, you know, like just kind of like Little Green Men is probably my favorite character right now. It will totally change. My favorite Pokemon changes over time too. So
we kind of talked about this, the darker elements of some of the art that MetaZoo had, like the Black Mask card, Seance, some of those darker themes. With the art going forward, is that something you guys are going to stay away from, maybe lean into, or is that just completely off your radar?
No, I mean, so that was multiple questions. That was almost like a matrix of questions. It was sort of like, here are some particular instances, and then over here are like, will you do this?
Just like, what are your thoughts on the darker direction of the art?
Yeah. So look, I think that a part of the identity of some of the lore and some of the stories of cryptids is like its origin as a thing that goes bump in the night. And I'm not trying to lose that identity. You know what I mean? Like I want to show the range on these characters. I want them to be, one of the things I will say is like, I think that things could be dark to a fault too. Like if everything's just a shadow, is anything ever something that casts a shadow? You know what I mean? Like so I think that there's a lot of definition that can be brought to some of these characters in interesting ways. I think that it will be clear that like MetaZoo can have its version, right? Or its versions, you know what I mean? Like it may do the same thing in unique ways, right? Over time, it already kind of has, right? Like not like think about like Wendigo, right? Wendigo's like a darker character, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about like the lore, right? And so you have Wendigo, and then you have Wendigo from the poker set where he's like wearing the outfit, right? So it's like the same thing, but like done in different ways. But it's it's Wendigo, right? And not only that, that's my Wendigo. That's my community's Wendigo. That is MetaZoo. Now that's interesting too, because there's two versions, and both times you said that's MetaZoo. So it's like, well, how many versions can there be? What is the reason that feels consistent? You know, those are the kinds of philosophical questions that have to be answered. And so, like I think that there will be a degree of continuity in that we're not trying to erase all of the original stories, right? That said, I think that I personally believe that there were some cards that the purpose of it was almost just to push that boundary. And what I don't want is I don't want to do things that make it so that even MetaZoo's own community doesn't all feel like they can enjoy it.
What do you see as the target demographic being for the new MetaZoo, like age-wise?
Yeah, that's interesting. So target demographics and trading cards broadly, I always have to step out. I apologize that I can't just like answer a question. But like I always got to step back, right? So because there's like a framework in which you determine these things, which is to say that like the target demographic is always aged younger than the people that you believe will be involved. Okay. And so like I don't want to give you an answer and then you think like, well, we're done here, guys. Like, you know, I'm starting to lose my hair, so that doesn't work for me. You know, like I think that we can build the brand in a way that it still works for teens, and that we can build up from there.
Where will people be getting these updates going forward? Because obviously we can't do these streams every single night. So how are people going to be updated in the future?
I think that in the short run, you know, I love X/Twitter, you know. for the short run. I think we'll be on there pretty quick, where we can kind of just like highlight these key things and kind of make it punchy. We've used the GQL website as well. So you've seen an announcement there, and then we try to like push that out, and eventually that end up everywhere. I think that we will have the Discord set up like relatively quickly. Now, I want to make a comment on the Discord as well to say that like I want to be clear about how we're thinking about the Discord, because I know that like a Discord doesn't really mean like a thing. Like a lot of platforms, it's very clear. There's like a defined way that you like participate with it. Discord can be like a whole range of things. We don't want to displace any of the existing communities. And that's like, so like when I say Discord, like what I mean is I want there to be a clear place that you can go and say, this is real information, right? Or that, like I want there to be a place where it's like, okay, what programs are available for me, right? Like what's happening right now? And to be able to quickly get that information. I think that Discord will be that for us. And I think that we will provide that through Discord. We're working on a structure, trying to get it kind of right. That will be the Discord that we shared. It's the original Discord. And it will be shared. It's been shared through the GameCubator Labs announcement. You can add that to the description or something later, maybe, or something like that. And so like, we will definitely use it for that. But one of the things I just want to be really clear is that like, I think that with original MetaZoo Discord, the idea was sort of like, this is it. You know what I mean? Like, this is the place. And I might, maybe you interpreted it differently. Like that's just my interpretation, but like that's not the identity that we really want for it. We want it to be like, this is a conversation starter. And so I think I've said that a lot tonight too. It's like, I want to make us the platform on which people create, on which they talk, on which they have fun, on which they do all of these things. I want to make it a means to an end, not like the whole thing, And so like, I think the Discord will be like a great place to start a conversation. But I hope that people authentically form their own communities, because at the end of the day, like the most fun place to do it is with the boys. You know what I mean? Like the most fun times I've had in trading cards is when it's me and a group of my friends, like we have our own group chats and we have our own Discords and we have our own, all these things. And so I hope that all of that forms authentically, and we will never use the Discord to try to displace that. And so that's kind of the vision, and that's what I hope that people will find.
Well, here's a question for you. You kind of described yourself, well, you are an entrepreneur. How much of your focus will be MetaZoo going forward versus all the other things that you're involved with?
I have completely removed myself from those other things. I'm exclusively focused on the success of MetaZoo for the foreseeable future. If you catch a hint of like the infectious excitement that I have and that we have, like you're gonna want in. I'm telling you, discovering MetaZoo made these people want to work on MetaZoo. That is the only reason that every single person that is working on this project is working on it. Is because they like MetaZoo. Like maybe people don't believe that. I mean, certainly some of the haters are not going to believe that. They're going to think that I'm just like blowing hot air. I am not. You cannot make these people do anything. They chose to do everything. Like we have a world-class team because the IP deserves it. That is why there's a world-class team.
I think this would be a good opportunity for the final question, which is, what is the message that you have for the MetaZoo community overall?
My message is that the community was right. You were right about this IP. You were right about the things that you wanted. And like, you are like this, you won. You were right about that idea and you won. The IP was strong enough that it spit out the elements that are not working and is rebuilding and attracting the things that it needs to succeed. Like, that's crazy. Like, name another game that did it.
I really like the way you just phrased that. That was a really good way of phrasing it.
Yeah, that's my message to the community. My message to the community is, I'm only here for the same reason you are, which is that this idea is just so good. Like this concept of a global IP with regional iterations that tie the stories behind cryptids and legends and these cryptid-like things, into a trading card game as a vehicle for delivering it. It's a good idea. It's a really good idea. I'm honored to have the opportunity to steward this thing for a little while and to, really just like make it be in service of the people that love it. Like that to me is like it's a duty and it's a justice piece. Like I truly believe it deserved it. And I'm that's what gets me excited, is like just to be able to to watch it get what it deserves, you know? Because I have this like sickness in my head where it's like I like trading cards more than money. So like, you know, like, yeah, I know, right? Yeah, for sure. Like that's why I still have my Pokemon cards, you know, like, and that also should be some of your evidence. Like I had to sell some of my cards, like buy this thing, you know. What I hope is that the community will give us the chance to kind of put these things out there, you know, like over time, you know, like it's a lot to ask, you know, to go a week or two without communication, and we're trying to solve that. I think we'd love to get a tweet out there every day, but like, I mean, like we're going to get something out there on a consistent basis, but we're finding our footing. You know what I want to do is I just want to I want to build a product that I want to open. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's like, I'm really excited to drop a product and then feel like I want what's inside of it. I mean, that to me is the ultimate goal. And I'm the harshest critic, you know, like I really am. So.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate your time. Go get some dinner. We'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and thank you, not just to you for your time, but thank you to everybody that joined us tonight. I really appreciate you guys listening and giving me a moment to just spend some time and talk with you.
Yeah, thank you guys. I'm really blown away by how many people came into this thing. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
All right. See you, dude.
To receive the power of the Crimson Bands of Sitarak, read these words and go from this place a human juggernaut.